Welcome to part 2 of my Luke Skywalker Character Analysis. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, then I highly encourage you to do so. I'll throw up the title card and place a link in the description to it. In today's video, I'll continue my case for Luke as the greatest Star Wars character, looking at his role in Episode 5. So without further ado, let's get into it.
A Jedi's strength flows from the Force, but beware of the dark side. Anger, fear, aggression. The dark side of the Force are they. Easily they flow, quick to join you in a fight.
Luke learns that, like everything else, there are two sides. The Force is not all good or evil, it's what you make of it. Essentially, it's his choices that will determine his destiny. To this point, Luke has succeeded when using the Force as his ally and used it solely for good. Although, due to human nature and things such as fear, there will come a time when he'll be tempted by the dark side. That's when things can become dangerous, which is why the upcoming cave is an important teaching point for him.
If once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will, as it did Obi-Wan's apprentice.
Vader.
Fear is what drove Anakin to the dark side, and the same could be for Luke if he's not careful. Fear is impossible to eliminate entirely, but it's about not letting it control you and your actions, and rising above and being brave in these moments to do the right thing.
Is the dark side stronger?
No. Quicker, easier, more seductive.
There's always a misconception that the dark side gives you more strength, but it's just the easier path, at the cost of being consumed and controlled by it, whereas mastery of the light simply takes more time. There's more control over one's actions and true peace of mind. One could argue that the true strength comes from being able to control the power you have fully, rather than have a greater potential at the cost of becoming unstable. This is why the Jedi are always calm, clear-minded, focused, and free, whereas the Sith are unstable, erratic, and emotionally compromised, being prisoners of their great power.
But how am I to know the good side from the bad?
You will know when you are calm, at peace, passive.
This also plays into the idea of being in control of your actions. Yoda tells Luke an important thing that would directly save him in his final fight with Vader, the idea that one should find peace when searching for answers. When we become emotional to the point that it clouds our judgment, we can take actions that are easily regrettable. However, when we calm ourselves and find peace, the truth becomes very clear. We don't mistake evil for the good that we seek. This is the power in Luke's demeanor in Return of the Jedi, as he's always calm. Unlike now, where he can still be impulsive when the going gets tough, as he still tries to seek out adventure at all costs.
A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack.
But tell me why I can't.
No, there is no why.
Yoda explains the pivotal difference between the Jedi and the Sith, as the reasoning for using the Force is everything. Like another great mentor once said,
"It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices."
Luke questioning Yoda also reminds us of his youthful curiosity, as he's always willing to hear both sides out. One of the things that allows him to see the good in someone like Vader, as he's willing to wonder and empathize with someone that may have chosen evil, knowing that the world is not so black and white.
There's something not right. I feel cold.
That place is strong. But the dark side of the Force, a domain of evil it is, and you must go.
What's in there?
Only what you take with you.
In this domain of evil, Luke's fears will be exploited, as Yoda implies that no matter where he goes, as long as he has fear, doubt, anger, or any other negative emotion, they will follow him.
Your weapons, you will not need them.
Despite Yoda's advice, Luke's fear forces him to take his weapons, and in doing so, he manifests the darkness and evil he would experience in the cave, as bringing his lightsaber would introduce violence into this natural habitat. According to the philosopher Plato, the cave represents the confusion between what is real and what is false. It's a metaphorical journey into the window of one's inner self. So, Luke enters the cave and begins this journey. It's here that he's faced with a man that most represents fear itself, in Vader. Vader not only instills fear into nearly everyone that he shares a room with, but he's a man whose destiny was created purely out of his own fear. Similar to how Dagobah was described as a dream, Luke quickly finds himself in a nightmare, as he's face to face with the embodiment of fear itself. Luke is the first to ignite his weapon in this dream sequence, emphasizing the idea that he's using the Force for attack rather than defense. Luke defeats Vader, but it's revealed that Luke's face was entombed in the mask, this being a metaphor for the very thing that Yoda alluded to, that with the wrong choices, Luke could become the very thing he swore to destroy, illustrating the idea that truly fear is the path to the dark side. So in Luke's next lesson, it would be imperative that they would go over one of the very things that has a stronger influence on choice greater than fear, that being its antithesis, that being hope. If fear is the idea or belief that one's desires will not come to pass, then surely hope is the idea or belief that it will. What you choose to gravitate towards is all a matter of one's mindset. This idea of mindset is brought to the forefront as Luke witnesses his X-Wing sink further into the swamp.
No. We'll never get it out now.
So certain are you? Always with you what cannot be done.
Mindset is everything. If you look at every situation negatively, it will affect how you perform under the circumstances, as a glass half full mentality can be a powerful tool.
Do you nothing that I say?
Master, moving stones around is one thing. This is totally different.
No different. Only different in your mind.
No matter the size of your goal in life, it can be done, and the approach is always the same, even if it seems like a more daunting task. It only seems that way because you allow it to. Luke is quick to make an exception and an excuse, failing to realize that success starts from his approach, as he must approach this situation the same way he would to move the stones. It's the idea of taking things one step at a time, rather than looking at it as some insurmountable task.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Sometimes our initial beliefs on a matter make us stubborn to look at something from a new perspective, as
many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
Luke must learn to stop looking at things so negatively and have more confidence that anything is possible, as long as he believes it.
Alright, I'll give it a try.
No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
Luke has already failed because he allowed failure to be a possibility in his mindset. If he heeds Yoda's words and goes into it with the mentality that he will succeed, that gives him the upper hand in every scenario. It also eliminates the possibility of fear dictating his actions, as he doesn't invite it, rather dismissing it entirely. So, because Luke invites fear, he makes failure inevitable. So when he tries to lift the X-Wing, he's unable to, and it sinks further into the swamp. One step forward, but 2 steps back.
I can't. It's too big.
Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you?
You shouldn't judge something by its appearance, whether it's a person or a task. This mindset just restricts the greatness you can see in others and the greatness that you're capable of. Luke again concedes and voices his inability to do something as an unchangeable fact. He makes the arbitrary excuse of size being the cause, but not realizing that, like everything else, it all starts from within. Size is simply a card that we're dealt. What we do with it is what defines us.
For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
Having the Force as your ally is like having the hope and belief that anything is possible, and confidence in yourself is everything. Viewing people as luminous beings is an incredible sentiment, as it implies that we're all more than just physical beings, that we're powerful by the energy we give off to the world. Luke must learn this to improve with the Force. He must embrace his spirituality and faith, as it will allow him to transcend beyond his physical self, to use all that is around him and view them as one. Only then will moving the ship be like moving the stone. In the same sense that wars make not one great, neither do our abilities. Yoda is special not simply because of his prowess with the Force, but because of what he chooses to do with it. Despite the odds, he still perseveres beyond everything that stands in his way. He believes that anything is possible, and in doing so, makes it a reality.
You want the impossible.
Luke has hit rock bottom. The man who defined hope has conceded and lost faith in himself. He seals his fate by claiming it to be impossible, but Yoda shows him otherwise. Yoda shines Luke with a bit of inspiration and wonder as he lifts the X-Wing with ease, and Luke turns again into the young boy that dreams of adventure, as he's just witnessed the impossible. This moment of defeat that Luke has shows the reality of dealing with failure, how it can be easy to give up and accept things for as they are, but Yoda shows him that bouncing back from that failure is where the true success lies. Failure is inevitable, but you only truly fail when you quit. In other words, when you stop believing.
I don't believe it.
That is why you fail.
This drives home the point that believing in yourself makes anything possible, because if you can imagine it, you can make it a reality. If you limit yourself in your mind, the one place where anything can happen, what hope is there for reality? There's also added symbolism behind the scene, as the X-Wing representing Luke is stuck in a swamp or a rut. So because he believes he will never get out, the ship only sinks further. Where Yoda shows with positivity, belief, faith, and hope, one can get out of any situation that they're in, no matter how dire. As in the darkest of times, hope is something you give yourself. That is the meaning of inner strength. As Luke continues his training, he's then introduced to the importance of control.
Control. You must bring control.
With the previous lessons in the bag, they can easily get thrown out the window if one does not have the control and discipline to see things through properly.
Through the Force, things you will see, other places, the future, the past, old friends long gone.
This sparks Luke to see his friends in danger, leading to the question of his attachment to them. It's good in the sense that he cares about them, but it forces him to lose control and make decisions based off emotion.
Difficult to see. Always in motion is the future.
This being a reminder that we only have control of the present, as our actions in the moment are what lead to the events of the future, not the other way around.
If you leave now, help them you could, but you would destroy all for which they have fought and suffered.
This commentary on the uncertainty of the future and the effect one's actions may or may not have lead perfectly into Luke's final lesson, and that of choice.
Luke, you must complete the training.
I can't keep the vision out of my head. They're my friends. I gotta help them.
You must not go.
But Han and Leia will die if I don't.
You don't know that.
With all the lessons that Luke has under his belt, he must now use them to weigh out his options and make a choice, to save his friends or complete his training. His decision would decide the fate of not only his friends, but his character as well. True character is revealed in the choices a human being makes under pressure. The greater the pressure, the deeper the revelation, the truer the choice to the character's essential nature.
Even Yoda cannot see that fate,
But I can help them. I feel the Force.
but you cannot control it. This is a dangerous time for you, when you will be tempted by the dark side of the Force.
The unknown is a scary thing, as you can't control it. But what you can try to control is fear. The fear of loss is a driving factor in Luke's desire to go, which concerns his masters, as it's the very thing that drove Anakin to suffering.
Luke, I don't want to lose you to the Emperor the way I lost Vader.
You won't.
At every turn, the masters try to get him to stay, but Luke defies them as he's choosing to trust his instincts. This being a part of the natural cycle of master and apprentice, as the apprentice must learn to fly on their own, taking their teachings and ascending beyond the master.
Yes. To Obi-Wan you listen. The cave. Remember your failure at the cave.
But I've learned so much since then. Master Yoda, I promise to return and finish what I've begun. You have my word.
While Yoda makes a good point about the cave, as he fails a test of fear then, Luke brings up a better point as he's learned from his experiences on Dagobah, especially from his failures. The Luke that's choosing to leave now is different than the one that entered the planet. He may not be a Jedi yet, but he's certainly on the right track.
It is you and your abilities the Emperor wants. That is why your friends are made to suffer.
That's why I have to go.
Sometimes you have to put your foot down when the whole world tells you to move, and say no, you move. At the end of the day, Luke fights for his friends, so they're his priority above all else, even becoming a Jedi. Ironically, it's this selfless compassion that brings him closer to becoming a full-fledged Jedi, not simply his abilities. It may be a trap, but Luke is willing to deal with the consequences because at least he can have a hand in their fate, compared to just staying put, something he was always told to do as a farm boy on Tatooine.
Only a fully trained Jedi Knight, with the Force as his ally, will conquer Vader and his Emperor. If you end your training now, if you choose the quick and easy path, as Vader did, you will become an agent of evil.
Yoda again emphasizes the importance of choice, as Luke might be setting himself up for failure, both in terms of his skills with the Force or combat, but mentally and emotionally as well, as he may give in to temptation and become another pawn in the Emperor's game. To combat this, his masters advise
patience.
And sacrifice Han and Leia.
If you honor what they fight for, yes.
It's a hard pill to swallow, as fighting for your friends or what they stand for is the human heart in conflict with itself. Both hold weight, but there's no clear, correct answer. Luke is put in a scenario where, as the hero, others are depending on him, and he must make the difficult choice, which can be seen as both a blessing and a curse.
If you choose to face Vader, you will do it alone. I cannot interfere.
I understand.
Luke has made his decision. He knows the consequences and is willing to live and die by them. He uses the very confidence that Yoda wanted out of him for this moment to stand up to his masters and go save his friends. He knows it's the right thing to do, as they've done it for him countless times.
Luke! Don't give in to hate. That leads to the dark side.
Strong is Vader. Mind what you have learned. Save you again.
A reminder to apply what you learn in practice to real-life situations, especially here, where it means life or death. While they may not entirely agree with him, Luke's masters give him any advice they can before he embarks on his journey. This support and trust gives Luke the last bit of confidence going into this confrontation, and allows him to leave on good terms.
I will. And I'll return. I promise.
Obi-Wan and Yoda look on, knowing that they've given their apprentice all the tools to succeed. And now, all they can do is hope.
Told you I did. Reckless as he. Now, matters are worse.
That boy is our last hope.
No. There is another.
So Luke sets out to the beautiful planet of Bespin and enters the heavenly Cloud City, by far the most attractive planet that Luke has been to this film. However, it's all a guise, as Luke would find himself in something more akin to hell than heaven. Luke tries to be the hero once again that would save the princess and the scoundrel. However, this time he's too late, and as Leia warns him, Luke's efforts to do the right thing have the reverse desired effect, as this time every move has been anticipated and calculated by Vader. A theme of this film as everything is reversed or flipped, again shown visually as Luke rises into the carbon freezing chamber, rather than descending into the fiery pits of hell. It's here that the cave is now brought to life, as Luke is pinned against his enemy in the evil Darth Vader.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
Luke must face his fears head on, and that being personified in Vader himself. Confronting him will bring him one step closer to completing his training. Here, the juxtaposing archetypes meet, where Vader stands as the shadow, an ominous presence that seems almost unhuman. This compared to Luke, who's the hero of 1,000 faces, being one of the most relatable and human characters of them all. Luke serves his friends and the rebels, where Vader serves his master and the Empire. Again, Vader's in black as per usual to the villains, but Luke this time has a grayish-brown jumpsuit. This compared to his white tunic in A New Hope, showing how temptation and fear have made things become complicated and murky. Luke ascends the steps to meet Vader. The fight begins, and again Luke is the first to ignite his weapon. Vader shows his mastery with the lightsaber as he uses minimal effort to counter his attacks. Vader simply defends himself, waits for Luke to make a mistake, and then capitalizes on it. This being the opposite of how duels between Jedi and Sith typically operate. That of course becomes flipped back to normal when the fight lasts longer than Vader anticipated. There's also something about Luke trying to use his father's own weapon that just feels poetic, as Vader could never be defeated by the weapon he constructed himself.
You have learned much, young one.
You'll find I'm full of surprises.
Luke now has a more confident mindset going into this fight, understanding that he may be outclassed, but he's going in with the belief that he can defeat Vader, similar to the rock in the ship.
Your destiny lies with me, Skywalker. Obi-Wan knew this to be true.
No.
What's great here is that again, Luke shows confidence and heroically puts his foot down and stands up to Vader, even when he's defenseless. Vader tries to instill fear, but fails to shake Luke's psyche, although he does succeed in shaking his footing.
All too easy. Perhaps you're not as strong as the Emperor thought. Impressive. Most impressive.
Vader suffers a bit from the judgment that Luke did too, as he underestimates Luke's abilities, but very quickly gives him props when proven wrong. Luke is impressive here, not as much for his abilities as for his spirit. He shows that he's not one to give up so easily, and he'll fight tooth and nail to survive this fight. It's a nice touch that Luke calls to his weapon with the Force here with ease, to show the growth that he's made throughout the film, where he struggled to do the same thing early on, really driving home Vader's overall commentary.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. Impressive. Most impressive. You have learned much, young one.
This allows us to see his physical growth, but it also symbolizes his mental and emotional growth as a person, as his character has grown in many facets since then.
Obi-Wan has taught you well. You have controlled your fear. Now, release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.
Similar to what Yoda once said, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, but hate leads to suffering. So even Vader can see that Luke has learned from his failures and has learned control, the very thing that allows him to remain calm and see the difference between the good and the bad. Luke is able to survive the first part of the duel and knock Vader over. However, Vader would come back with a vengeance, outclassing him in the Force by a mile, never touching him but knocking him out of the window, a quick reminder of how powerful his opponent really is. But Luke, being the ultimate rubber band, still survives. In this third phase of the battle, Vader unleashes his own anger as Luke gets overwhelmed by his flurry of attacks. It's in this moment that we see the dark side being used for attack in its full form, and Luke can only do what he can to barely survive.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist. Don't let yourself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did.
Of course, Vader tries to intimidate to end the fight and provide more fear, but Luke doesn't know when to quit, as his spirit is much stronger than his body. Luke shows patience compared to Vader's lack of composure, and is even able to get a hit off on Vader, but that might have been his biggest mistake, as Vader now doesn't hold back and cuts off his arm with the very same move he used in the first phase of the duel. Luke losing his arm is him losing a piece of his humanity and heightening the consequences of this ordeal. He comes one step closer to becoming Vader and hasn't realized it yet.
There is no escape. Don't make me destroy you.
The irony in this is that if Luke was to give in to temptation and the dark side, the man he once was would be destroyed, so his choices here are to die physically or mentally. In other words, to die the hero or live long enough to see himself become the villain.
Luke, you do not yet realize your importance. You have only begun to discover your power. Join me, and I will complete your training. With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy.
I'll never join you!
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
Luke is faced head-on with the very thing that Yoda alluded to, temptation. Luke doesn't give in to his emotions and makes the right choice, willing to sacrifice himself and not give in to the dark side. In theory, Vader makes a very good offer as he suggests to him peace above all, but Luke can see that this is an empty promise and not worth losing the good man that he already is.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough! He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
This revelation is the final thing that fully turns Luke's world upside down. The man he revered and saw as a father figure in Obi-Wan betrayed him with this lie. Learning the truth brings into question not only his trust in Obi-Wan, but the romanticized picture Luke had of his father, as now he's forced to imagine his hero and nemesis in Anakin and Vader as one and the same. This may ruin the idealized image of Anakin for Luke, but it also humanizes Vader, as he's no longer just a brooding machine or agent of evil, but a man that lives and breathes under the mask.
No. It's not true. That's impossible!
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
No! No!
The nightmare continues for Luke, as similar to the cave, it's difficult to tell what's real anymore, and the idea of becoming Vader becomes all the more real as he shares his blood, and he may already be down the same path as him.
Luke, you can destroy the Emperor. He has foreseen this. It is your destiny. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. Come with me. It is the only way.
Vader proposes one final offer, to maintain the rule of two and overthrow the Emperor. However, Luke chooses to give his own life instead of being tempted by the dark side. It's a dark moment, as the son would rather die than join his father, a man who he once only dreamed of meeting. But the reality is that he was just a disappointment to him. Luke then descends until he's below the city. Visually, we see Luke upside down again, as this is a direct representation of what his world is like right now, where the only thing he can cling on to is hope. Of course, when he calls to Ben, he gets no answer, so he calls to someone who has never betrayed his trust in Leia. Leia comes to the rescue, and again Luke is saved by someone else, emphasizing that his strength is his faith in his friends. The same way he will do anything to save them, they prove time and time again that they would too for him.
Luke,
Father.
son, come with me.
Why didn't you tell me?
Luke, it is your destiny.
Why didn't you tell me?
Luke shows acceptance of the truth, even showing a bit of relief to hear from Vader. Although, when he sees that Vader will not change in his ways, Luke is disappointed and only wants answers from the man that betrayed his trust. Luke goes on to repeat this by calling to Ben, as the reality of the truth does not seem to bother him as much as being lied to and how he found out, giving reason to Luke asking the simple question of why, as leaving out this information can make him feel like he's being manipulated to kill his own father, rather than giving him a second chance. Overall, Luke just needs space and answers. In the closing shots of the film, Luke and the team are left to deal with the aftermath of the duel, getting his arm replaced with a prosthetic not too dissimilar to his father.
Luke, we're ready for takeoff.
Good luck, Lando. When we find Jabba the Hutt and that bounty hunter, we'll contact you.
I'll meet you at the rendezvous point on Tatooine.
Princess, we'll find Han. I promise.
Chewie, I'll be waiting for your signal. Take care, you two.
May the Force be with you.
No matter how down things may look, Luke and the team make immediate plans to save their friends, as they never give up on one another. As a film of flipping the script and the protagonist's journey right on its head, rather than finishing as a true victory would with celebration and fanfare, The Empire Strikes Back ends on a foreboding note for our heroes, with Han gone and Luke dealing with reality. But that never stops them from fighting for what's right and looking to the stars, as hope will always find a way. Things may look grim for now, but the trialed hero will always be there, whenever the galaxy needs him. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I had a ton of fun making this video, so if you enjoyed it too, then I highly suggest liking the video, and if you want to see more like it, then definitely hit subscribe. And if you want to be notified when part 3 comes out, then hit the bell for notifications, or consider checking out my Patreon, where I'll be uploading videos there significantly sooner than on YouTube, so part 3 should be available there as I speak, and the same will apply to the next parts when they come out. And on that note, I want to give a shout out to my patrons. Your support means everything to me. And finally, let me know in the comments which Star Wars character has gone through the greatest challenges and why. And who knows, they might be in the next one. Until next time, you'll find that I'm full of surprises.